Okay, today is 4/27, and we're tying together things we saw in the iodine diffusion lab, things cells have to do with the cell structures that you've now been studying, or looking up anyway. So if you're still working on the table, I need you to stop now, because we're going to talk about this, and you need to be paying attention here, because this is stuff that's going to help you, hopefully, on the test that you are taking on Tuesday. Tuesday, good Lord, Tuesday. I know, tomorrow's geometry, who cares about biology, but I care. And I'd like you to get out of high school on time. I'm sure you would too. So, if you think back a couple days, I asked you guys, what do cells have to do? And you said things like reproduce, get energy, get rid of wastes, move stuff around, make proteins. Those are good things. Now, if you think about, and I had somebody on the cell, what do you know, said, I'm not really sure what a cell is. Does anybody else feel like they're in that boat? Okay, that's fine. That's good. I want to know that. Because we haven't done a real formal introduction to cells. So here I've got this sort of blob. Meet Bob the Blob. Okay? You got a bunch of blobs that make up you. And these little tiny blobs of stuff are cells. And as far every living thing on this planet, every living thing we've ever seen is made up of these. And some living things are just a single one of these, and some living things are a whole bunch of these. Look at your own splendid, fabulous little cells with like 30 trillion cells. Pretty cool. Pretty impressive, aren't you? Each one of these little blobs has some barrier between itself and the outside. If we think about this as an analogy to you, there you are, dancing or something. What's the barrier between what's outside your body and inside your body? Your skin. So cells also have some sort of skin. From your research, from your cell cheat sheet, what is that barrier? Cell membrane. So the cell membrane, if we think about it, is kind of like a Ziploc bag. It's kind of like the cheap plastic sandwich baggies we use. It is just this thin, flexible membrane that it separates inside from outside of the cell. Okay? It's flexible. It'll dry. I tell my daughter that all the time. So this is a pretty good analogy for a cell. It's a flexible membrane. And inside, now it would be better if I had filled this up with like jelly of some sort. Water is a little bit thinner than what's in your cells. What's the stuff in your cells, the watery jelly-ish stuff from your cheat sheet? Cytoplasm. So at its most basic, this is a pretty good model for a cell. If this was a bacterial cell, what would be in there? Check your list. Look at things that are present in bacterial cells. What would we have in there? Some DNA? Some ribosomes? So had I shoved a couple of like little BBs in here before I tied it off, and a couple pieces of yarn, that would be a pretty good bacterial cell. Now we might want to protect this somehow. We might want to encase it in a firmer sort of structure like a cell membrane. That's not going to work, is it? That's going to end badly. Here. This could be a what? A firm, protective outer covering on this cell? Cell wall. Okay. So back to my little cell here. Boing, 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 boing. Something bad's going to happen, isn't it? This is like the foreshadowing. Boing, boing, boing. What could possibly go wrong? She said, dangling a water balloon over her iPad and her MacBook and all the papers on her desk that need to be graded. Okay, so here's my little cell. Now, if I'm making stuff in this cell that has to go someplace, let's say that this cell is one part of a larger living thing, that it's not a living thing unto itself. Stuff has to get in and out of this cell, doesn't it? Huh. You ever fill up a balloon with air and leave it overnight? What happens? It deflates, yeah. It's not nearly as big and impressive as it was the day before. Why?
It's got like tiny holes in it.
It's got tiny holes in it. The membrane, because a balloon is a membrane. That membrane allows things to go through it. In the case of a balloon, what is the membrane, the balloon skin, allowing to go through it? Air. In the case of an inflated balloon, yes. In the case of an inflated balloon with air. So that membrane, do you know the word permeable? What does permeable mean? So let me give you a little question. We'll see how clever a critters you are. If, I'll stick my little balloon in its cell wall. If I give you a t-shirt to hold up and I pour water on top of it, will the water go through the t-shirt? Yes. Then the t-shirt is permeable to water. If I give you a big garbage bag to hold up like a square and I pour some water on it, will the water go through it? No. The garbage bag is not permeable to water. Okay? So permeable means what? Things can go through it. So we talk in biology a lot about permeable membranes. In biology, we talk a lot about permeable membranes. A permeable membrane is a membrane that does what? Lets stuff through, Moser. Duh. Okay. The other thing we talk about in biology is what are called semi-permeable or selectively permeable membranes. Now, let's get back to our little baggies and our iodine and our starch. What traveled through the bag? Iodine. Did any starch travel through the bag? No. Then that bag is a selectively permeable membrane. Okay, so a selectively permeable membrane then allows some stuff through, but keeps out other stuff. Hey, back to this here cell membrane. Guess what a cell membrane is?
It's the outer shell.
Well, we're talking about permeability here. It's selectively permeable. Your cells are selectively permeable. The cell membrane is a selectively permeable membrane. Some things pass through the cell membrane pretty easily. Some things don't pass through the cell membrane easily. Okay? So now we're going to talk about that concept, and it's a vocabulary word you had on the lab, diffusion. Diffusion. What is diffusion? You defined this. But now you don't have your paper in front of you, so do you understand what it is? What is it? Okay, so it's, yeah, here's the classic definition. The movement of particles from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So I have a beaker full of water. In it, I have a few particles all over here in the corner of stuff. What's going to happen? Well, those particles are going to spread out, aren't they? And eventually, if I come back in a little while, those particles are going to be all over the place, sort of evenly distributed. That's diffusion. So they moved from an area of high concentration, which was that one corner, to an area of low concentration, which was all the rest of the material in that beaker. And now they're kind of evenly distributed. And they're still randomly moving, because particles are always in motion, unless they're at absolute zero. So they're still moving, but now they're all spread out evenly. And most materials are sort of attempting to do this. That is diffusion. If you cook bacon in the kitchen, can you smell? Where do you smell the bacon first? In the kitchen, Moser. Come on. Right. Will you eventually smell it the back hallway in your bedroom? And you'll come out of your room going, yeah, you will. Where was the area of high concentration of smell particles? The kitchen. Where was the area of low concentration of smell particles? The back hallway. I'm using some metaphorical house. You may or may not have a back hallway. Those odor particles spread out throughout the entire house until they are evenly distributed. That is diffusion. And liquids and gases diffuse, period. So if we're talking about something in a liquid medium, if we're talking about something in a gas, it diffuses. Osmosis is a special case. Okay, so diffusion is the movement of particles from an area of high concentration to low concentration until they are even. Why can I not spell anything today? Jeez Louise. Until they're even. Okay. How is that different from osmosis? When you looked up a definition for osmosis, what did you find? I know you don't have your thing in front of you and you didn't commit it to memory. That's okay. Anybody have any memory of what osmosis was and how it was different than diffusion? Osmosis is a special kind of diffusion. Okay, osmosis, when we're talking about osmosis in biology, there are some other sort of slang uses for osmosis. It is the diffusion of one kind of substance, and only one kind of substance, across a semi-permeable membrane. Do you know what that substance is? Okay, that's fine. It is the diffusion of water. So this is the diffusion, and that's why I wrote the word osmosis in blue. It's the diffusion of water across a semi-permeable membrane. The water will travel from an area of high water concentration to an area of low water concentration. It's important to remember that here you're talking about the concentration of the water, not the concentration of the other particles. So how many of you have ever been fishing? Okay, if you haven't been fishing, have you ever been out on a lake, on a boat, canoes? Good aluminum bottom canoe on a spring day on a lake. Go out to Highlandtown, go out to Guilford. You hear muffled splashing up against the hull. Aluminum canoes are noisy. Do you ever hear those from far down in the depths of the lake, those muffled explosions? In aluminum bottom boats, you can really hear them as they hit the hull. You've never heard those?
Like bubbles or something like that?
No, when the fish are exploding down in the depths.
Yeah, I can't say I've
Have you all heard fish exploding in the depths of the lake? You haven't? None of you have heard fish exploding in the depths of a lake? Very dangerous. That's why you don't scuba dive in freshwater lakes. Cameron is suspicious that I'm up to something. So let's forget about exploding fish for a second. We'll come back to the exploding fish.
Oh, I have heard of exploding seagulls.
Okay, so I've got a beaker here. On the outside, it's all blue dots. Guess what that is? Water. On the inside, so then I have a little baggie. This could be like the little baggies that you used. It could be, they actually have what's called dialysis tubing, and it's a semi-permeable membrane. It looks like an ordinary plastic bag, but it's not really. So I've got this little baggie tied off. And inside the little baggie, I have some blue dots. That would be water. And I have some green dots. And that could be anything. It could be salt. It could be sugar. It could be whatever. Something else. Where is the highest concentration of water? Inside the bag or outside the bag? Outside the bag. Where's the low concentration of water? Inside the bag. So, if water is going to diffuse, which way is the water going to move? It's going to move into the bag. So the water motion, and I'm going to do that with purple arrows. Ah! Cancel. Okay. The motion of the water is going to be into the bag. What's going to happen to that bag? It's going to explode. Oh. Have I called you guys fatty water bags yet? I would add fatty, salty water bags. You know that your cell walls are just like little fatty bags. They're made of something called a phospholipid. So your cells are literally like little bags, except the balloon part here is made up of fatty bags. Guess what's in the bags? Mostly water, some salts. So you're like fatty, salty water bags. Yay. So, back to those fish. I just like making exploding noises. So, I got a fish in a lake. That fish is also a fatty, salty water bag. That fish is inside a liquid environment every day, all day long. And has anybody here ever accidentally drunk lake water? Okay. Yeah, me too. I try not to. You're going to try not to a whole lot harder after I tell you what I have to tell you. I love swimming in lakes. I'm never going to quit swimming in lakes. But I try really hard not to accidentally swallow lake water. So, that fish is swimming in the water, and its cells are all made of salty water. Its cells are a whole lot like this little bag inside this little beaker. What is happening to that fish every second that it's in the water? Without it trying to, it is taking in water. It is just soaking up water. Water is pouring into its tissues. Because the water is moving to the area of lower water concentration, and the liquid, the cytoplasm inside its cells, is saltier than the water outside. It's got more stuff in it, so it's a lower concentration of water. Therefore, water is continually pouring into the fish's tissues. Hence, exploding fish, right? Do fish explode? Nah, they don't. So how do freshwater fish cope with this problem? I know you look worried. You look very worried. You should be. How do freshwater fish not explode? They're sucking in water all the time without even trying.
Flush it out.
Flush it out. Why, that's an excellent idea, sir. You could be a fish designer. They pee all the time. Constantly. If they're in the water, they're peeing. It's called copious dilute urine. They just keep peeing. You see why I said you're going to try really hard not to swallow lake water after this? Yeah, so lake water is basically just a big bucket of fish pee. Yay! With some goose poop and dead stuff thrown in for the mix. Go swim. Have fun. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. You should be exposed to the world. Yeah, because their cells are constantly taking in water. Now, let me ask you this. What if we turn the tables? About fish out in the ocean, you say? Well, what's in the ocean? Huh? Salt. Lots of salt. Making more little dots. More little dots. More little dots. More little dots. And I'm going to label this salt water. Salt water. So there is so much salt. Has anybody here ever been to the ocean? Okay. A few of you. If you haven't, here's what I will tell you. You go for a swim in the ocean, you come out, and you lick your lips, and they're salty. And if you stay in the ocean long enough, your skin will get this kind of like leathery pucker. It's weird. Anyway. So the ocean's got a lot of salt in it, a lot of dissolved minerals. It's actually got so much of that stuff in it that guess where, I'm going to erase some of these from my little cell here, my little pseudocell. Guess where the concentration of water is actually higher? Inside the fish. Who here has ever made jerky? Have you made jerky at home? What do you do to make jerky? Cameron, have you made jerky? Okay, what do you do to make jerky? Dehydrate it. How do you dehydrate it? Step 1. You salt the behoozes out of it, don't you? Why does that work? Well, here's the funny thing. Let's borrow our high water concentration. Where is the high water concentration in that salt water? Copy, paste. Where's the higher concentration of water? Inside the cell. Where's the low concentration of water? Outside the cell. Oh dear. Oh. No. Redo. Well, I screwed that up, didn't I? Water concentration. Copy. Paste. Rah! So the low concentration of water. Oh wait, I have that backwards. Sorry. Jeez Louise. The high water concentration in salt water is actually... No, I have that. Okay, let's walk this through. Sorry. If I mention that I'm having a day, there's like a fog between my brain and the rest of the world. I'm not sure why, but anyway, it's okay. The water is so salty that there is actually a lower concentration of water out in the ocean. There's actually a higher concentration of water inside the cell. Which way is water going to move? From high to low. What's going to happen to this fish? It's going to turn into fish jerky. Swimming fish jerky in the ocean. So we got freshwater fish in Guilford and Highlandtown and Lake Erie exploding. No, they're just peeing all the time because they're constantly getting water into their tissues. You've got ocean fish that are turning into fish jerky. How can they compensate for this? There has to be a way, because you know they're not fish jerky. You know they really live there. So, pardon? Hey, you're good. Ocean fish actually do this thing where they drink constantly, and they have mechanisms in their body to concentrate salts. So while freshwater fish pee constantly, copious dilute urine, it looks just like water. It's so dilute. Ocean fish basically never pee. Their pee looks like toothpaste. It's paste because they're concentrating all the salts and excreting that. And they don't excrete any liquid because they need all the liquid they can get because they're in such a salty environment. Otherwise, they'd dry out. They would turn into fish jerky. Okay? So that is osmosis. It happens in your cells as well. Where do you see osmosis? In your cells. When your hands get pruny, or if you've been doing dishes, or if you've ever been someplace like wet sneakers, I know some of you are running track. Like after a long day, I remember doing a district thing where it was like raining for hours and we were there for hours and we couldn't get dry. And when you got home and you peeled off your wet shoes and your wet socks, your toes were pruny. It's osmosis. Your tissues are actually exchanging water with the environment. So, here's the thing to remember. Things move from areas of what concentration to what concentration, all by themselves with no input from you. High to low. It's really easy to think of it this way. If I have a rock at the top of a mountain, do I have to expend any energy to get it to go down the hill? No. If I have a rock at the bottom of a mountain, do I have to expend any energy to get it up the hill? Yes. We're going to stop there today. Tomorrow, what we are going to do is expand this to talk about cell transport. So far we've talked about the cell membrane and how that functions with moving things in and out of the cell. That's it for today.